Hey guys, welcome back to Sans Project Bench. On this episode, I'm going to try make that front end a little prettier. So most of this under here will be hidden once we put the front bar, the grille and the headlights back in. But it is still looking old and tattered. The thing's 23 years old now, 24 years old now. So we'll give this a birthday as well while we have it all apart. Showing signs of surface rust in a few locations. Just like most of it around here, it's not really damaged, but we'll leave it. It will chew it away over time. So, what's at this point? I'm going to clean her up, treat it, and paint underneath here. So I'm making progress on the front here. Now I've stripped back the rust down there, gotten a lot of the dust and grime off that, been attacking with wire brushes, brake cleaner, all sorts to break all the loose crap. But as I get down, been finding more rust on the chassis. Nothing too serious, just more surface corrosion, and it evenly transitions into the engine bay. So I've been treating underneath and behind the radiator support, and while I'm at it, I'll be straightening a lot of these bumps and bruises on the air conditioning condenser. So this is where we're up to. I'll keep cleaning and then I'll come back once it's time to treat the rust. Alright, I'm about to start the rust converting process, or the treatment process, whatever you want to call it. I've touched on it before in a previous video. If you're interested in watching that, you can always go log back to my rust repair videos earlier in the build. I'll put a little thing here if you're interested in that. Otherwise, I'll go through it quickly again for those who are new to the channel. So this is the converter I like to use. It's just from a store chain in Australia called Super Cheap Auto, and this is just the home brand rust converter. Now it's a very simple process. As you can see, it's a phosphoric acid solution. From memory, I think you can even just get phosphoric acid. You don't even need the quote-unquote rust converter, but don't quote me on that. I definitely no expert on it. I'm sure if you do a bit of googling you'll find out the truth behind it. So this here, it's a very simple process. So it essentially needs you to get all the loose bits of grime, flakes of rust and dirt off. Once you've wire brushed it, you get all the loose debris off. It gets you to use a wax and grease remover. So I have the same brand Super Cheap Auto wax and grease remover. So, but any brand will do the same job. And I go over top all the surfaces I plan to treat. It's not a bad idea because as a process you need to do, even if you're just painting over top. And then I brush on the acid solution, the converted solution. Just I pour it in the bowl here, and I use the brush just to apply it to any of the bare metal or any of the corroded surfaces, and I leave it to sit for half an hour. And in that time you will visually see a change in the metal. I haven't started yet, but I'll get in close so you can see the metal here. And after I finish the process, I'll get in close again and I'll compare what they look like after they've received the treatment. In here, it's the more substantial rust. So no significant holes, but there's plenty of pitting. So I'm expecting to see a nice visual difference here. So So the rust typically turns darker, almost like a black, once it's actually been treated. And once it's been treated, the instructions call for you to grab a damp rag. You don't want to soak it, you want a damp rag, and you want to remove all the excess acid from the treatment. So I usually do that a couple times, because I'm usually doing more than a small area any one time. After that, it likes you to use the methylated spirits. Same thing, you wet a fresh rag with methylated spirits and wipe over the thing. I'm assuming that's just to remove the water, because water on bare metal is probably not ideal. So I'll find the metho, it dries it out and just leaves it, also kind of leaves it like a powdery surface. I don't really like the powdery surface, but yeah, I don't like to leave it in bare metal. After I've hit it with the metho, then I hit it with just a dry rag, no solution in there, just remove any of the dust or grime or whatever. And finally, once it's to that stage, I will hit it again with the wax and grease remover, and I'll go over the whole lot, cleaning all the surface again, then hit it with the etching primer, the etch primer. So this is the etch primer I've been using. Seems to do the job alright. It's relatively inexpensive. I think I pay $13 or $15 a can for that. So it's not the cheapest primer out there, but it does the job. And after I do that, I let it sit for a couple of days to etch in. Then I'll come back and then I will actually rub it back with a bit of Scotch-Brite just to rough it up again, and I'll hit it with an acrylic primer, and then I'll go over it with the acrylic paint just to finish it all off. So that's kind of my process of this whole treatment. I've moved into the engine bay here. As you can see, there's a lot of evidence of corrosion in there. Probably the deepest I've seen so far in this. I'm not too surprised under the battery, when it sits for years at a time and water collects underneath and just sits in place. It's rarely removed, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Down here I've stripped back the radiator mount there. Had very minor surface corrosion, so but while we're at it, we'll clean that anyway. And most of everything I'm repainting, it's just going to be repainted black. Engine bay is not exactly the pretty, and won't be pretty even once it's all complete, so I'm not too concerned about the change of colours. There's outside eventually will be one colour. I'm going to keep it green, probably change to a different green, but at least from the outside it will look clean and look neat. Now I didn't film the whole process of the repairs to the floor pan in here. After a couple episodes playing with rust and treatment, I kind of just wanted to get it done, and I think everyone was getting sick of just seeing me work on the floor pan. So I spent a week on this, and yeah, just got the work done opposed to filming it. As anyone knows, when working in a car, as soon as you try to film it, it takes 3 or 4 times longer. So I just got this done. Corrosion even on the step there, like everything in here, it seems to be extremely minor. So everything was stripped back, cleaned, treated, and then did a etch primer. After that I let it sit, sent it back, and reprimed it and painted just a 1K acrylic paint, and she is looking a lot neater. So down the back I still need to finish that up down there, but the worst of it is good to go. Alright, the rust converter's been applied. As you can see, the metal is already starting to change. I mean, less shiny, and all the corroded bits are starting to go dark. It's exactly what we want. So the rust treatment has been carried out. Everything's been cleaned off, just hit it with the final wax and grease remover, getting ready for the etch primer. As you can see, the metal itself has visually changed. So it almost looks like there's like a layer, like a powdery layer on top, but yeah, and the raw metal doesn't seem as shiny. But that's what it tends to look like after it's been treated. Looking at here, a lot of the rust that was up here is now much darker. In theory, should be stable and prevent the rust from reoccurring. Alright, so I've got the edge primer on. Now I'm noticing the edge primer is not mixing well with the existing paint. I have a suspicion that was like a rust inhibiting paint. So yeah, pretty much wherever it's just normal body paint seems to be working fine, but some of this existing black stuff seems to be a little tarry, so I don't think that's mixing too well. That's alright, most of this is going to be hidden, so where it's starting to crack, I'll probably hit with the Scotch-Brite, see if I can get it down and see if it will accept a normal primer. Either way, I'm going to let this sit for a day or two before I start attacking it again. In here, where it's all just normal body paint and raw metal, all seems to be doing quite nicely. Alright, so the black is now on. I've done several coats and it's had overnight to set. Like everything I'm doing, my paint work is not 100%, but it looks a lot neater than it did when we started. Feels good and seems to have adhered to that rust inhibiting paint. I know the etch primer didn't like it, but once we roughed up the surface end of the back a bit and actually put an acrylic primer, it seemed to actually bite in pretty nice. So don't know how that's going to go for the next 10 years, but for now it's looking the job. Once we got the bar and the grill, everything, even if it does flake off, we shouldn't actually see any of that. But if we look in here, we got the battery compartment all painted. So that was on the rusty side when we started. A lot of surface rust that was starting to flake off. That's looking a lot healthier. And down the bottom, the radiator support and cross member we've cleaned up. So all in all, the front end's looking a lot neater than it was. Now while I was waiting for the paint to dry, I decided to pull these out from behind the shed and try on some new shoes. So I'm not against having these wheels. I reckon they would look quite tidy. The tyres though, way too small. Once it actually pieces back together, the car is going to be a lot lower. So sitting much higher, similar to a 5 or 6 inch at the moment, simply because there is no weight in the car. That as soon as I load it back up, she'll be dropping back down to a 3 inch. And in future, we're probably going to change out the springs. So I'm liking these wheels, but they need bigger tyres. So in future, probably going to be stripping those wheels and doing something there. From a distance, doesn't look too bad. But as we get nice and close, they're looking pretty horrible. So they definitely need work. So whether or not I try restore these or buy some new ones, I don't know. But in future, this is going to be one of our next tasks. So back on the chassis, clean up all the surface corrosion and giving that a fresh coat of paint as well. Alright guys, I'm going to finish off the video here. I hope you enjoyed watching the process of getting this front looking anywhere decent. So hopefully in future we can tackle some more exciting projects. But thanks for watching and getting this far. I'll see you in the next